Don't forget to encourage. Now, don't write one another yet. Write blank. Okay? Don't forget to encourage blank. Got that? Because my title is Don't Forget to Encourage One Another. But for you this morning, I believe there's somebody that the Lord wants you to encourage. And as we sit and as we begin to talk about what it means to encourage somebody, that blank, you'll be able to fill that in. There'll be somebody that you know you're supposed to encourage. There might be multiple people. You might need a few more Post-it notes. But you need to write that down. You need to write that person's name down because you do not need to forget to encourage John, to encourage Velma, to encourage Evan, to encourage Chris. There's somebody that the Lord wants you to encourage today. Let's look at this. Put up 2 Peter 1:12, and this is I guess our launching scripture for the whole series. Therefore, I'll always be ready to remind you of these things. How many of you know here? This is Peter. He's saying, "Hey, guess what? I know a whole lot of things." You know, how many of you know Peter was known for a big mouth? He knows a lot, but there's things that he knows that he needs to be reminded of, and he's saying, "I need to remind you of some things that you already know, but it's so easy to forget." How many of you know it's easy to forget to say thank you? Huh? How many of you know that? How many of you know it's easy to forget to encourage somebody because you're too busy doing some things. You're too busy with life, or you're discouraged yourself. But here Peter's saying, hey, there's some things I need to remind you about, things you know, things that I know, but hey, I just think it would be well if I reminded you. So let me put up Hebrews 3:13. I want you to see where we're jumping off this morning. Hebrews 3:13, it says this. It says, but encourage one another daily as long as it's called today. So we're going to encourage people as long as it's called today. And then tomorrow, as long as it's called tomorrow, I guess we would encourage each other tomorrow, right? As long as it's today, each day, while you're there, you should be encouraging one another. That's what it says. It says, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. You know that little three-letter word, sin? So often we think of it as, you know, like the big sins, or you know, the sins that are, you know, you see everywhere. It's like, oh, that's... But sin's deceitfulness, anything contrary to God is sin. Anything that it's not of God is sin. And so, did you know sin can be deceitful? Like, let's see, maybe lack. Okay, you're saying that's not sin, but that's not of God. That's what sin is. And it can be deceitful. Because if you don't have someone encouraging you with the word, or you're not in a place like the Bible says this, he says, encourage one another to come together, to come to church as you see the day approaching. The Bible actually, that's one of the few things he says very specifically what to encourage someone to do. And here you see people saying, you know, it's not that big if you go to church or not. You're right, but your heart might be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. And the problem with having a hard heart, if you got lack going on in your life, and your heart is hardened by sin's deceitfulness, now when God's trying to get something to you through a word, your heart's hard, and now that word can't penetrate like it could have. This is why he's saying, encourage one another as you see the day approaching, as Satan is trying to devour and take everyone he possibly can with him. As you're getting closer to that time, he says, encourage one another to come to a place where the Word of God is taught, because it's the only thing that softens our heart. It's the only thing that produces faith or a culture, if you will, for God's Word to grow in our lives. And so he's saying, hey, encourage one another, not only to come to church, but encourage one another so that sin's deceitfulness won't harden your heart. We need to have people encouraging us. We need to be the encouragers in this world so that people's hearts aren't hard. Did you know your words can soften somebody's heart so that they receive what God is desiring to do to them or do in them? You know, there's some people that don't know the Lord yet, or they knew the Lord because they came to church and that was the last time they ever want to do anything. Get me out of that place. I don't want to be by those people. Ugh. You know why? because of something that happened. But you could be the very thing that softens their heart because you don't forget to encourage somebody and you soften their heart so that when God desires to reach them, boom, one plants, one waters. Amen. One softens the ground. I just ran a tiller yesterday, and how many of you know we've had rain a while ago, but then it got hot. And I was tilling this area that I had dug a trench for, put an electric line for my chickens, and I got to use chickens at least once a month. So that's my goal as long as I'm pastor, and just to talk about chickens at least once a month. But so I tilled it yesterday, and it was hard. And I have a 6-foot tiller on the back of a tractor, and it was doing this, you know, and just it was hitting rocks and all kinds of stuff, and it was sparking. And I'm just like, golly, this is hard on it, you know, all for chickens. Anyway, so but you need some water to soften. Encouragement will soften. So let me just let's get going here this morning. Let's just talk about what it means to encourage real quick before we jump in there, because sometimes we don't have a good idea of what really encouragement is. Let me give you the actual definition. It simply means to give support. To give support. You know, how many of you out there have needed support? How many of you could use some support? Let me tell you, I got some support when I needed it just this week. Have you seen these Cokes that have names on them? This has Nate's name on it. That's why I got it. See? Nate. See? And I do love Coke. The person said, I don't know if you like Coke. I do like Coke. Absolutely. This is the best drink. Glass bottles even better, but they don't have names on them, I know. But I got some encouragement. I got some support this week. And it just said, hey, I don't know if you like Coke, but thought of you when I saw it. Wow, it's so great to know someone thinks of you. That just is kind of an encouragement. But thank you for your leadership here at Beyond Church. That's what it said. But that was a support that, you know, when you're going, it's just caught me at the right time. Don't forget to encourage one another. It says to give support or to lift, to bring life. I love this one, to cheer. There is nothing quite like when you're playing a game and when somebody shows up and you hear your name. Come on, Nate! And as you're going for a loose ball. There's nothing quite like having somebody cheer your name and being able to, as much as things are going on, to hear your dad yell at the ref, come on! You know? It's like, yeah! I got someone in my corner. I got someone that's for me. How many of you know it's nice to have people cheering for you and not against you? Amen. That's what it means to encourage, to cheer, or to fortify. To fortify. To discourage simply means this, because if we can encourage, we can discourage. To discourage means to crush. It means to crush. It means to cast down. I love this. To dishearten. Okay? To discourage means to dishearten. What does it mean to dishearten? If I am disheartened, if someone came up here and disheartened Nate on this stage, I would have no heart. If I have no heart, what does that mean? I'm dead. It means to kill. That's what discouragement means. Discourage means to kill someone, to take the very thing out of them that is bringing life to them. That's what it means to discourage. Here's what it says. It says, I think this is really interesting. Paul tells Titus, in Titus 2:15, he says, tells him to encourage people. Look at you see this. Then, these then are the things that you should teach. He said this is the very last verse of chapter 2 of Titus. It says, encourage and rebuke with all authority and do not let anyone despise you. So he's saying, hey, guys, you need to encourage somebody. You need to encourage somebody. You need to encourage somebody. He's saying, be bold about it. Be bold when you encourage. Be bold when you rebuke. And don't let anybody despise you. You know who despises you more often than not about your encouragement? It's you. You're the anyone that despises you about your encouragement. What you say doesn't matter. No, what you say does matter. It mattered that I got this Coke this week. Let me tell you, it mattered. It mattered. It mattered. Don't let anyone despise you. Don't let anyone despise what? Your encouragement. Your encouragement is so important. Not only can you not forget about encouraging others, you need to know that you need to stop saying what you say doesn't matter because God says that it does. Let me tell you a little bit about what your mouth can do. It says in Proverbs 8:21 that life and death are in the power of your what? Tongue. Your tongue. Your tongue. I find this really interesting. We have on that wall out there, we have a picture of the river valley, and it says rescue. It says rescue. And you remember when Jesus, he came and he said, hey, Simon, Peter. Actually, it was just Simon. No, it wasn't Peter yet. But he said, hey, Simon, hey, Andrew, come follow me, and I'm going to make you what? Fishers of men. And so what do we fish? What do they fish with? We fish with, a lot of times, rods. I would love to fish with nets. Man, it would be so fun. Like, oh, look at all these fish, you know. But we fish with rods and reels. But what do they fish with? They fished with nets, didn't they? And he says, I'm going to now make you a fisher of men. I wonder what he would, did Jesus take a net and go, I got one. What are the nets that he uses? It's your words. If we're to rescue people, if we're to be about to rescue, our words, let me tell you, our words are our nets. Our words are our nets. Are your nets broken? Or are your nets mended? Do you have big holes in them? Or when you cast it out, are you going to catch that person that feels so small? You know, these cast nets that they have, if you throw it into a pond that has some roots, and you go to pull it back out, and you tear a hole in that net, you might as well stop throwing the net. You might as well go get another net. Why? Because you got too many holes in it, and all the fish are going to fall out. Even if you have a hole that you'll be losing fish. You'll be losing people if you are damaged, if you are hurting. So it says here, let me jump back on here. Proverbs 8:21 says this. It says, life and death are in the power of your tongue. Wow, that's powerful. Life and death, your tongue. So don't let somebody despise you. You know, you need to go, apple. Remember that when you used to do that? Say apple. Oh, no, never mind. Don't say that. That was in... I do... that was in high... Yeah. So, yeah. Whoa. All right. Wow. I was just thinking, grab your tongue and say something, but don't say that. That's what we say. God. Thank you, Lord. I'm saved. All right. He loves me. Yes. All right. All right, here we go. 2 Corinthians 10, 3-5, it says that we don't have weapons that are carnal. But even though we have a tongue, this is our weapon. The Bible talks about how he put his word in our mouths. It talks about his word as a sword in our mouths. It says, put it up there, 2 Corinthians 10. I don't know if I gave it to you 3-5, but it just tells us this, that his words, it says, for we do not live in this world, we do not wage war as the world does, though we live in this world. The weapons we fight with are not weapons of this world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We'll just end right there. We don't have to keep going on. Our words have power to demolish strongholds, to demolish the things that are holding somebody else back. Maybe there's a gift in somebody to be great, to do something. But because there's a stronghold of what somebody has told them all their life, or what they've been damaged in a certain way, they don't even embark on it. They don't even start the process. But you could release them. You could set them free. And the word that you say, the words that you've said to them, could set them free, and they could begin to run and have an impact so great, so huge, and when you get to heaven, what does he say? What does the Lord say? Well done. Thank you for all these people. You're like, I didn't do that. No, you set that person free, and that's why I set you here, to set somebody free. But in the same way as you set someone free, you can bind somebody up. You can just lock them up. Because life and death are in the power of your tongue. I ask you this, what have you been speaking? You speaking words of life about people? If there's anything good, think on those things. As long as you're thinking on something that's not good, guess what's going to be coming out of your mouth? Not good. Death. But he says our tongue has power to demolish strongholds. Things that maybe your wife has struggled all of her life with her appearance or self-confidence issues. Well, husbands, encourage her.
Amen.
Husbands, teach your kids to encourage her. Set her free so she can be what God has called her to be. It's powerful. Don't forget that your words are so powerful. Ephesians 4:29 says, don't let unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. But as we encourage people, I think three things we got to remember about encouragement. And I think this is what I wrote these down. This is so important for me to remember about encouragement. Number one is this. If you have a note, I would write this down. Your encouragement needs to be genuine. When you encourage somebody, don't just blow smoke. Make it genuine. Make it real. Be real. Be real, because being fake is just too hard. Number two, you need to be liberal, or don't be stingy with your encouragement. This is one of those things that I grew up maybe thinking wrong, and the Lord's been changing it in me. But I used to not compliment very often because I didn't want someone to begin to coast. Okay, I was a business owner, and if they're doing a good job and I compliment all the time, I thought rather what I was doing was cutting their legs out from under them and just going to let them coast because they're doing good enough already. So I don't want to make them coast. I need to keep them up here, so I'm going to just give it a few times so they kind of work for the carrot, if you will. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You know, keep it out in front of them a little bit. And when you do say it, then maybe it'll mean something. But you don't want to over-encourage them, because then they might just coast. And then they might think they're doing so good, they're just going to, la-di-da-di-dee. That's wrong. Because my words build up. What if I made them better? What if they became a greater worker? What if they became more diligent? What if they became a better leader? What if they could run a crew and make you a whole lot more money? What if your words could be a blessing to the employees in your business? Because you tell them, good job, and they're like, really? Okay, well, I can do better than that. Don't be stingy with your encouragement. Encourage your kids. What does that mean? Cheer them on. That's why I love that. I love that definition of encourage. Cheer. Cheer them on. You be their biggest fan. Be your friend's biggest fan. Be your family's biggest fan. Be employees' biggest fan. You know when you can be somebody else's biggest fan? Is when you're secure in yourself. But you can't be secure in yourself if you don't know who holds you. You're going to have to trust the Lord or something. Sing it and do it, I guess. Huh? Not verse 3, number 3. Be specific. I love this one too, because it's so easy to throw out encouragement and be like, oh yeah, that dinner was great, honey. And really it was like terrible. Like, oh. You know. I wasn't talking about my honey. I was talking about yours, okay? Now that's even worse. My wife's a great cook. She's a great cook. But be specific. If she cooks a good dinner, say, honey, that lasagna was amazing. I loved how the bubbly cheese was all on it. Oh, Like, be specific. Oh, you look beautiful. Oh, really, what was I wearing? Be specific. That new necklace you just got when we were on vacation looks awesome. See? Be specific. Trying to dig myself out a little bit. All right. Be specific. So these are 3 things that I think if we just would remember, we need to be genuine, we need to not be stingy with it, and we need to be specific. Because that tells them this, that tells people this. You took time to notice. How easy is it to tell your wife in the car, love you? It becomes like, you know what I mean, like, and then like, I love you, love you, love you, love you. What does love you even mean anymore? It just means I love you, I love you, I love you. Love you. That's what you say at the end of every conversation. Love you. Really? I just got done yelling at you. Love you. Right? I mean, come on. Like, what does I love you mean? Talk to her about her eyes. Talk to her about something. Tell your kids what you love about them, how they didn't quit. Be specific. All right? Pacific. No, specific. Okay. Atlantic or Pacific. Just kidding. All right. Specific. Okay, so why don't we encourage? There's 2 things I think that we don't encourage. And I was looking at, like, okay, why don't we encourage? There's two things I think, if you could put them all in a basket, two baskets, it would be one of two things. Number one, I would say we don't encourage because we're too busy. We're too busy chasing things. You think about it. You don't encourage somebody because, for me, for example, I didn't encourage often enough because I was too busy chasing the dollar. I mean, let's just be straight about the deal, right? It's chasing the dollar. Maybe you're doing the same thing, but you're not encouraging because you don't want to cut their legs out from under them. You're chasing the dollar, and you're so busy that you're running up and down, and you're not even noticing. You can't be specific because we're chasing things. We're chasing something. Let me tell you, I love this analogy I heard the other day. There was a guy by the name, I can't remember his last name, couldn't pronounce it. His name's Nick. He was born with no legs and no arms, okay? No limbs, no arms. And he has a foot or a club, and he has two fingers on, or two toes on it. And so that's how he does everything with his foot, this little, and it's about this long, and it's like his leg, and his name's Nick, and he's a motivational speaker. And he was talking, he said this analogy, and I just thought it was so great. And he said, aren't you going to be so excited to get to heaven and hear, well done? It's like, that's so exciting. But have you ever thought about what the Father would say? He said, I was thinking about that. I think he would say, who'd you bring? Who'd you bring? Did you know our words are our nets? What did you bring? Oh, you left that? I have plenty of pavement. What did you bring? Oh, that really cool sports car? Oh, yeah. Oh, that really great garden? Oh, that perfectly manicured lawn? Oh, that 401k bank account? Oh, that car that you spent the last 18 years waxing? Oh, is that what you're bringing? Okay, come on in. We don't encourage, we don't throw our nets because we're throwing our nets at too many other things. Let me just tell you, it's called squirrel chasing. A fishing boat. Having something just the way you want it. We're chasing things, and so we miss opportunities to sow into people. We miss those opportunities, and the funny thing about it is there's only one purpose for us being here. You know, sometimes the reason we're frustrated is because we're chasing things, and then when we get the thing, it's not as good as we thought it was going to be. Anybody? Help me out here. You know, you're chasing that thing, and so maybe you're chasing the big house, and then when you get the house, you realize there's maintenance with that big house. And now you hate that big house. Or you would say, I wish I just had a little bit more so I could spend or pay somebody to do some maintenance on the house. So now you work a little bit harder than you did just to get the house. Now you're throwing a few more extra hours, a few more extra dollars. And now when you're meant to encourage somebody, we'll get to this in a minute, when you're meant to encourage somebody by meeting a need, you can't. And you won't, because that's what you got to meet your need, because you're chasing something else instead of what he meant you to chase. Mm-hmm. That's better preaching than I'm hearing, just saying. We're chasing things and they don't satisfy. They don't satisfy. We just got back last night. We went to Boonville to pick some blueberries. And I'm like, why are we doing this? It's like $20 a gallon. She's like, memories. I'm like, okay, memories. All right. It's hot out. I was complaining. I was like, no, memories. Boys, isn't this fun? Y'all having fun? Oh, yeah, Dad, we're having fun. We went to Chick-fil-A. But you know what? I learned more that trip, although it cost a lot for blueberries, although we spent $80 on berries. Plus gas to Boonville. I learned a whole lot, and I got saved a lot of money. Because we like to garden, we have blueberry rows ourselves, and this guy was 67 years old. He started his blueberry farm in 1983. Now, never once has he made a profit. Got talking with him. Never once has he made a profit. Over half of his plants are dead. Actually, I would say more like 70% of his plants have died. He's worked a full-time job over those last 30 years. He worked a full-time job from 7 to 3. And from 3 to 6, or 3, excuse me, was it 3 to 10? 3 to 10 at night, he was out in his garden, his 10-acre blueberry patch. For 30 years, chasing squirrels. And I was walking back to my car after he gave us a recipe, and I thought, this is the best trip. It just was the exact thing that the Lord was talking to me about. You get too busy chasing something, and you miss the very thing you were meant to be here for. And you wonder why you're not satisfied. It's not because the bugs just ate your squash. It's because the bugs, the things, are eating your destiny. And as long as you're not doing what you were created to do, you just won't quite get it right. You can go on vacation. You can spend thousands of dollars. You can have a big house. But if you're not doing it, what's the point? Well, if you're not happy not being married right now, you're not going to be happy when you're married. The reason we're not happy is because we don't know how to play the game called life. There's too many young people, there's too many of us Christians that we don't know how to play the game called life. Did you know every game that you play, whether you're a gamer or you like to play sports and you're a jock or whatever, any game you play always has a goal? Mario Brothers, din, 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 din. What is the goal? Beat the level. Beat Bowser, huh? Come on. Bowser, yeah. Maybe warp to a few different worlds or something. You know, get the code to beat the game faster. There's always a goal, isn't there? What's your goal? What's your goal? Is your goal, let's see, get married. Then what? Have kids. Then what? Send them off to college. Get them in a, Ivy League school. Okay, then what? Get a sports car and drive. Then what? Marry the kids off. Then what? They have grandkids. Then what? What? Like, tell me what? Like, tell me what? Then what? Because when you get it, then what? When you get that big four-wheel drive that, you thought that was going to be the answer, then what? Then what? Really? Then you got to change the oil. Then you got to buy tires that cost $2,500. And now you can't encourage somebody? Then what? Really? Is that what it's about? Is this really what it's about? No. Basketball has goals. You want to see somebody smile? You want to see a kid smile? Let them shoot. You ever been to one of those kids' camps? Hey, we're not going to shoot. We're going to practice dribbling. We're going to shoot. Right? Travis? Thursday morning? It's the last game that counts. I'm just kidding. He's on my team. All right? We won. All right? Oh, that was my shot. We won the last game. I hit the game winner, It's true. Humble pie, eating it. All right. It was fun. What am I talking about? I'm off. Oh, goals. We've got to have goals. No, seriously, got to have goals. What are you playing for? What are you taking with you? In high school, you always wanted to be what? You wanted to be all conference. You wanted to have, maybe back then you wanted to be all conference. Now I don't think they do the letter jackets and all that, but you wanted to be not honorable mention. Honorable mention is like, yeah, you're pretty good, but you're not that good. Yeah, all conference, second team, yeah! How many people go like, yeah, all conference, second team, baby, yeah! Nobody. There's goals. And, if we understood that why we are here was the same reason, Jesus said, as dear children imitate their father, so imitate me. If you look at Jesus, what he did, it says, he went about doing good, encouraging, building up, doing whatever he could do. That's what. Okay, so there's one reason we don't. It's because we're too busy chasing things. The second one is this, and I think this will this will ring home because this rings home with me a whole lot, and that is we're discouraged at times. We're discouraged. You know why we're discouraged? Because we've been playing defense too long. We've been believing God for breakthrough for so long in a certain area, or maybe you've been standing on His Word for healing, or this or that. Let me just tell you, even, and you can write this down, even if you don't get your miracle, you can still be a miracle. Even if you don't get your miracle, you can still be a miracle. You can encourage somebody. You can hold them up when they are about to fall. And a miracle is simply something that you can't do in your own strength. You could speak a word that has power in it, and somehow they were going to go down, but your word picked them up and kept them hooked up. What if somebody was about to commit suicide that day, and you gave them a miracle, even though you didn't get your miracle? What if we were all about doing miracles instead of trying to get miracles? I'm telling you, if we're sowing miracles, and He says, hey, guess what? Heaven and earth will pass away, but seed time and harvest will remain. If we're sowing miracles, if we're more interested in being a miracle to somebody than trying to get a miracle, guess what? You'll have some strength, you'll have some stuff, and guess what else? You'll be sowing miracles and you'll be reaping miracles. What if Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God, be a miracle to somebody, huh? Build the kingdom was really the answer. Be a miracle, get a miracle. New slogan. You start living to be a miracle in somebody's life. How can I be a blessing to them? What if we lived and said, I could buy the truck, but I could also buy somebody else the truck? I don't know. Maybe you just would get a truck. Maybe the Lord maketh rich and adds no sorrow to it. I thought that was written in the Word somewhere. Maybe. Just maybe. I wrote this. Let's move from, if we're discouraged, let's move from the don'ts. Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope I get a good report. I hope that doesn't. I hope that doesn't. Let's move from the don'ts to the do's. You know, on defense, you're like, oh, please, don't. On offense, you're all about, I'm going that way. We're standing still too long. We were never meant to stand still. Guys, there's a race that we were meant to run. And as long as we're playing defense, we're standing still. Stop playing defense. Let's go forward, and we know that we can do something. We can be a miracle in somebody's life. We can bring a word of encouragement. You want to hear God's voice like you never have before? Start asking Him, what do you want to say to John today? What do you want to say to her today? What do you want to say what do you want to say? Do you want to say anything to them? I'll say it. Boom, tell them this. You want to do anything? Do this. Because He gives seed to the sower. He gives seed to the sower. Man. Wow. Let's move from the don'ts to the do's, from fear to faith. I want to kind of close with this. I think there's, it's not going to be a close. It's more like a 15-minute close, okay? So just keep your clothes on. How's that? 5 ways that Jesus encouraged other people, and I would say you could write these down. There's 5 ways that we see Jesus encourage people, and I think we could do the same. I think there's great examples here. In John 1:40 through 42, this is when Jesus called Simon Peter. Not Simon Peter. He called Simon Peter. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the 2 who heard about what John had said and who had followed Jesus. Verse 41. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon. See, his brother's name was Simon, not Simon Peter. His brother's name was Simon. And tell him, we have found the Messiah, that is the Christ. Verse 42. And he brought him to Jesus. And Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, son of John. You will be Cephas, which, when translated, simply means what? Peter. What does Peter mean or Cephas mean? It means rock. It means, and back then you got to put yourself kind of in the scenario. A rock wasn't just a rock on the road. He was saying a rock, a piece that I'm going to build with. You are a vital part. What if, put up number 1, what if when we encourage people, we saw a little bit more, we had vision for who they are. You want to encourage somebody, you better start having a little bit of vision for who they are. That they are that important. This is what Jesus did. He said, man, I see something in this guy. I see something. What do you see? What do you see in your friends? What do you see in your coworkers? Get some vision for them. Because it's your nets, guys. Set a goal. Lord, pray for them. And get some vision for them. Just like Jesus did for Peter. Because you know what it did for him that day? It set his course. Who knew that words could change a destiny? Who knew? Jesus did. That's why he did it that way. Number 2 would be this. I love it. Just right later on, just a couple of verses down, verse 44. Go ahead and bring out the good in others is what it is. Number 2, bring out the good in others. Verse 44 says this, Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethesda. Okay? Philip found Nathanael and told him, we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Let me stop there before I keep going. So you see they make mention of, these are the guys from Bethesda. Here's the guys from Jesus from Nazareth. Let me give you a little history about Nazareth. Nazareth was a podunk town. 200 people population, maybe. The size of the town was 200 yards by 900 yards long. It was kind of like a off spot in the road. Most of the town was just field. 200 people. It was in the northern part of Jerusalem, of Israel, which you got to remember, the southern part is where Jerusalem is. The northern part is where all these other towns are. Galilee, okay? The northern part of the people that, guess what? They're the punks. They're the no good. They're the guys on the other side of the tracks. The guys that messed up. The guys that sold out because they were under pressure. They sold out to God, to some other gods, because they were under pressure and at war. And the people in the south, are the guys in the white hats. The guys that stood up. Who do you think you are? We have the temple. We have where Jerusalem is. And here, you got to see what he says. So both of them are from the north. But here Nathanael, he gets called and he says, here they said, hey, we found Jesus, the one Moses wrote about. Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, verse 46. And he says, Nazareth? This is Nathanael. Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. And then they said, come and see. Come and see. So this is really interesting. Here, Jesus just gets bashed, right? He's like, he's all just calling out his hometown. He's like, y'all, right? This is what's going on. So what should Jesus do? Jesus should be like, I'm like the Son of God. What? Huh? Or something like that, right? Man, I could throw a net better than you any day. Okay. Verse 47. When Jesus saw Nathanael, he said, what, you be talking like that, boy? No, what he said? He said, here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. He could have said, you unbelieving fool. Don't you know the Son of God is standing in your presence and you don't even know that? What's wrong with you, you idiot? Can't see the forest through the trees, can you? Yeah, you are blind. No, he said, man, there's a guy that's honest. There's a guy that tells the truth. Sometimes we don't have anything to encourage somebody about, but there was really nothing to encourage Nathanael about after Jesus just got slammed. Someone just comes up in your place and go, that's your house? Really? And Jesus still found a way to do what? To lift him up, to do good to him. So what if we brought the best out of people? What if we brought the good out of others? I love this. This is number 3. I'd say this. We need to remind them of who they really are. Remind them of who they really are. Jesus did this to us. He did this to us when, sometimes you need some encouragement. You need to know what is the point here on this earth, like what's going on. And here he tells us that we're the salt of the earth. You're saying, how is that encouragement? You got purpose. You just got purpose by saying, hey, you're salt. Matthew 5:13-14. Hey, you're salt. You are to bring flavor to people's lives when they're bland. Think about that. You're to bring flavor to people's lives when they're bland. Salt doesn't just bring flavor. Salt also preserves. You're to preserve people. You're to, when they're not going to make it, when they're rotting out, you are to hold people up and preserve them. He goes on to say, he says, you're the salt of the earth, but the salt loses saltiness. How can it be made salty again? Let me just tell you this. Stay salty. If conflict arises because of your saltiness, don't lose your salt and let people walk all over you. Don't be walked on and say, I'm going to yield to what the Word says to alleviate conflict. Then you're good for nothing. You've lost your salt. Instead, stay salty and like them. And like them. The biggest lie that the world tells us nowadays is if we don't agree, we don't like each other. If I like black and you like brown, we might as well be enemies. That's retarded. Your wife, how many times do you disagree with her every day? But you still love her, right? How many times does she disagree with you every day, but you still love him, right? That's just, it's foolish to say because you don't see it this way. Because you're Democrat and I'm Republican, we're enemies. Oh, you're blue and I'm red, we better sit apart. That's silly. But we've been taught that for so long. If we don't agree, let's say someone comes to church and they don't agree with what's said, so they go to a different church. Oh, those are those people that... Are you serious? Like somebody, stay salty, and guess what? They'll appreciate the salt. Stay salty. It goes on to say, stay the light. Stay the light. Would you do this? Would you remind them of who they really are? When you see somebody, would you remind them of who they are? Remind somebody of who they are, not of what's going on. Remind them of who they are. Remind them that they still have a destiny. Remind them it doesn't matter what happened here and that you lost. But hey, there's still tomorrow. Do something. Remind them of who they really are. In 1 Peter, he tells us this. I love this. This is in the message. 1 Peter 2:9. Throw it up real quick. It says, but you are the ones chosen by God. Here he's telling us this. You are the ones God chose. Don't you love being reminded of that? That God chose you? God, remind somebody of that. God chose you, bud. That's why you're here. Maybe that's what they need to hear, that God chose them. That you got a calling. That changed. There was a young, when I was a young man, there was a lady by the name of Diane Thomas. I got invited by my wife now, which was my girlfriend then, and her parents were pastors on staff at a church, and they invited me to come sit up front with them on a Sunday morning. That was a big deal. Church, it was like 5,000-7,000 people, big deal. Sit up front, I'm like, oh, okay, stay awake this time, right? It's true, okay? And I'm like, okay, and I was always like Ben with the feet way out, like when the pastor would walk by, I'd like almost trip him. I'm like, okay, don't trip him, keep your, sit up straight, whatever, all that deal, right? And after service, this lady, Diane, she's sitting behind, and she came up to me, or actually to my mother-in-law and said, that boy has the call of God on his life. And Susan, my mother-in-law, told me that afterwards, and I said, nuh-uh. Like I didn't believe it. And she went and got her and said, would you tell him what you told me? And she told me, you got to call God on your life. That just something that simple got me looking. Did you know you have a call to God on your life? Everyone here has a call of God on your life. I can tell you that with confidence, that you have a call of God on your life. I can tell you that looking at you, you have a call of God all over your life. And so you should start looking for it. Tell them who they are. Number 4 was this. Go out of your way. Go out of your way to meet the needs of others. This is how you encourage. This is how Jesus did it. Remember when Jesus was at a wedding and he got asked, hey guys, we're out of wine. Jesus didn't have wine, but he got asked. He saw they were out of wine. You ever see somebody out of wine? Maybe on the side of the road? Get them some more. Not really, but when you see somebody out, I don't know, man. But when you go out of your ways to meet the needs of others, here you see Jesus. We're not going to look there, but the story is in John 2, 1 through 11. And Jesus is asked about the wine. And his mother said, hey, I need you to get some wine. You know what? He didn't have wine. He didn't even have water in the barrels. You know what he did? He went out of his way. He said, you know what? Hey, guys, I need you to get some water. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. Can you go get those? Bring them here. Set them here. Let's do this because they need some wine. Hey, you know what? You know that single mom that needs some help, and I saw that they needed wine. Hey, you have a sweet lawnmower, and you know how to change oil, and you know what? You are a great grocery shopper, and you're this. How about we get together? How about we play Jesus for a moment and just say, hey, boom, 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 get at the table and just let somebody drink something that was better than what they had. Well, then you'd have to go out of your way. Then I'd have to go out of my way. I'm preaching to me, guys. I mean, this is, don't forget, Nate. Yeah, but I have that right here. But I give seed to the sower. Oh, that's what that is. That's that seed. Okay, do you want me to plant it? Because that's not hardly enough to meet what you did have. You know, you were going to go out to eat on that money. You were? That was $30. You can't go out to eat for $30 with 5 kids or 3 kids. I mean, we went to Chick-fil-A last night, tried to cut the budget cheap, you know, $36. And I thought, I'm like, $36? What is this world coming to? Go out of your way to meet the needs of others. The last one is this. Believe in them even after they've failed. Believe in them even after they have failed. Remember who they are, not what they've done. I can't tell you how many times when somebody looked at my heart and who I was, rather than what I did, how it set me free. I don't think I'm the only screw up in here. I don't think I'm the only person that ever messes up or that says things that shouldn't be said or has done things that shouldn't be done. I remember my junior high pastor, it's actually Fred Shirley, he's going to be here this fall ministering. I remember being the cool cat in the back, at least I thought I was, starter jacket. And I remember I had a lot of failures in middle school. You know, didn't really care about what was going on. But you know what he did? He looked at who I was. And he gave me a chance. You remember Peter? You know, Peter that walked on water? You know, Peter the Cephas or the stone, the vital part. You know, Peter, the one that denied Jesus 3 times. You know that, Peter? After he messed up royally, not once. After he said, I'm not going to do that. I'll die for you, Jesus. It would have been better if he just had not said that. You know what I mean? 3 times he does it. Then guess what Jesus does? He gets back. He comes out and he says this in John 21, verse 15. He looks at who he is, not what he did. And you know the greatest thing you can do to encourage somebody that's messed up is give them a chance. Give them another shot. Just give them something. Encourage them. I've got a story of my child. One of my children, Samuel, he's my middle guy. He's 7. Just graduated kindergarten. At 7, you're going, I thought that was 6. It's 7 at our house. And we tried to homeschool him, so I don't think it was a child's failure. It was more a parent's failure. We tried doing that. But he couldn't get his colors. He couldn't get his numbers. He couldn't get his letters. He couldn't get his sight words. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get it. Put him in public school this year. Just felt like it was the right thing to do. We're going to keep him in there. We're loving it. We're loving the people that we're meeting. I just like people. Even if I don't agree, I just like people. And it's just cool to say, hey, what's up? And loving that. But put him in school. And his teacher was Miss Keys. Miss Keys. And we got a phone call when we put him in and said, he's 7. He shouldn't be in kindergarten. Oh, he's going to have to go in kindergarten because he can't. Okay, we'll work with you. So we put him in Miss Key's class, and Miss Key did something for him that changed him, that I couldn't do. It's called encouragement. He failed at a lot of things, but he had some things down. He was mature. He understood certain things, but he didn't know his sight words. But you know what he could do? He could follow directions real well. And she said, you know what, Samuel? You're a big boy. You're the leader of this class. After he's been following his brother all these years. You're the leader of this class. Telling him that. I'm sure she told every kid in that class that. But he heard it like it was him only. And she began to say, will you take this boy to the office? And he said, yes, I will. And come right back. Yes, ma'am. Take him to the office. Come back. He'd report to her. Changed him. He didn't want to go to school because he wasn't good at it. He wanted to play sports because he's great at that. But she changed his destiny. If you've been one of those people that struggle in school and those kind of things, if you don't excel at it, that's when you want to drop out. That's when you want to find people that... She changed his destiny. Don't forget to encourage who? Let's close our eyes this morning. I think if the Lord had a Post-it note today, He'd write your name on it. And He would tell you all those things. He would tell you that how to remember what you did and how you failed. I see who you are. And you're my child. And I love you. And I died for you. I love you so much. I love you so much. I just want to encourage you today that I have a call on your life. I want you to be my hands. I want you to be my feet. I want you to be my mouthpiece. I want you to hear from me for them. Say, I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you today that it's not too late. I want you to know that you're here today because I wanted to tell you that I'm not done. But I've just started with you. You say, I'm 40, I'm 50. What do you mean I just started? God's plans are bigger than you think. Thank you, Father. If you're here this morning and the Lord's speaking to your heart, maybe you've never met Jesus before, one that is here just to simply encourage you, and you'd like to do that this morning. Maybe you're saying, I needed this encouragement to come back to Jesus because I've been away a long time. Right where you're at, every head bowed, every eye closed, between you and the Lord. I'd like you to just pray this prayer with me, loud enough so that you can hear it. Just say, Father, thank you for Jesus. Thank you for coming to me today to bring me a word of encouragement, to let me know that you're not done with me, to let me know that I mean everything to you. I believe in you, Jesus. I believe you died on the cross. I believe you rose again. And I believe that you saved me. That you have a great plan for me. Everybody here, with your eyes bowed, eyes closed, your head bowed still. I want you to just lift your hands and just say this to the Lord. Say, I receive your call. I receive your call to encourage one another. I realize that my words are the nets that you desire to use to reach your people. Thank you for your words in my mouth, for your love in my heart. In Jesus' name.